the crop circle experts were like, no, this could not be made by human hands. And then like the reporter literally brings in Dave and Doug and they're like, surprise, bitch,
Surprise.
It was us. Which I think is legendary, but also sort of mean to the person who was the expert.
I'm Paige.
And I'm Megan.
And this is Spooky Science Sisters. Hello, you're listening to Spooky Science Sisters, a podcast where we present to you a science-based and probably very giggly discussion on all things strange and unusual.
As of recording this, we are just over a week out from the 5-year anniversary of this podcast, which is April 27th. So for those of you listening to this on release day, you are only 2 days away. And to celebrate 5 years, we decided it would be fun to do a retrospective episode and each rank and briefly recap our 5 favorite stories or topics, or I think in some cases episodes that we've done. And if there's any sort of like little update or new development, we'll share something like that for some of them. And also, we have kept these secret from each other. So we're going to go sort of like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and each reveal our rankings. It'll be interesting to see if we end up with all the same things.
Yeah. I think we'll have some that are the same.
Okay.
But I think I may have thrown some curveballs, so we'll see.
Oh, okay.
But before we start talking about something spooky and our favorite episodes, we first need to remind you about book pre-orders and pre-order bonuses.
Yay!
Which we will put a link to the form in our show notes. Just a reminder, in case you've either not heard some of the other episodes or have forgotten, the title of our book is Spooky Science, Dissecting the Mysteries of Ghosts, Cryptids, Aliens, and Other Oddities. And guys, we just got the advance copy. Well, not today. We opened it today, but we just got it this weekend, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, I got it yesterday in the mail, and then I had to wait until I saw a page today to open it, which was a special kind of torture. But it's so good. It turned out, like, just the design turned out so good. We were, like, super surprised. So I think I've shared a couple photos of the cover, like the dummy copy. So it's called a dummy copy, in case you guys want to know, of the book, where like you just get the cover and then like blank pages inside, but it's so you can see what the cover is going to look like. But the dummy copy does not have the embossing on the cover like the official one does. So it's like even cooler than the dummy copy, which was already very beautiful to me. So I'm just very excited.
Yeah, there were a lot of like little surprises throughout it too that we didn't know about or that we hadn't seen yet. So we're very excited.
Yeah. My spoiler is that the inside pattern inside the cover, like I want it to be my wallpaper. So you guys should just be excited about that.
Yeah. Okay. But like that would be so cool though.
I know. It'd be like a great like small bathroom crazy wallpaper.
Yeah, it really would. Or like a I don't know if it would go well as like an accent wall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm obsessed. I love that idea. Anyway, so we love our book and we want to share it with all of you. And so go order it. I'm not even going to say if you want it, just go order it.
Yeah, you should just do it because it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's super cool. And if you have done it already, or if you pre-order it before June 24th.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Then you can fill out the form. Like I said, will be linked in our show notes, but fill out the form on Quarto's website with your pre-order information. And the first 100 people who do that will get sent a group of page inserts, which will have extra stories for each section of the book. Think of them as like little shortened spookies.
Yeah. They're sort of like extra stories that we would tell in a short and spooky episode. It's bonus content.
Exactly. And they will be formatted and printed to match the sidebars that already appear in the book, so it'll feel like they fit right in. But these are just ones that didn't quite make the final cut for the final print. So yeah, we're very excited.
We are. We're super excited. Okay, so we have to do something spooky, and then we'll get to our rankings. Paige, has anything spooky happened to you recently?
I'm actually just going to let you say what you're going to say because it's the same thing that I was going to say and I don't want to take it from you.
Yeah. So my something spooky is just the state of the country that I live in right now, which is the United States, because nothing else is really that scary when everything happening is just generally terrifying. So we are straight up not having a good time. And I'm not going to bring down the 5-year happy anniversary episode too much, but I will just say, like, I am filled with a lot of rage and sadness about everything happening to the scientific community and to marginalized communities right now because of our current administration. So we are big mad, and we're just going to leave it there.
Yeah, if we talk about it too much, I might cry.
Yeah, and I would rather cry happy tears.
Exactly. Admittedly, I will bring it back here at some point, but I will try not to bring us down too much. Yippee.
Yeah, don't worry. One of mine was like uplifting, and then I made it a real bummer with my extra fact. So enjoy.
I don't really have like many extra facts, my guys. So it's like mostly just me gushing about episodes that I enjoyed.
That's fine. To be fair, I might only have one. So that could have been a lie, but it's fine. It's fine. It's worth it, you guys. It's going to be awesome. Okay, you have to go first. I don't know why, but you just have to.
Yay. So we're starting with episode 5. And like Megan said, like when we first talked about this, I was like, oh, I have like this really organized idea. Like how I know exactly how I'm going to pick these episodes. It's going to be like based off of my favorite topic that I researched. And that all went out the window the second I started this. So it's really just like, it might be on the list because I liked recording that episode. It might be on the list because I liked researching the topic. It just depends. So yeah. This particular episode was episode 45, Lab Disasters Part 1, which is when we did the Radium Girls. And like for me, I really struggled with like pretty much like 4 and 5. I had like 6 different episodes I was stuck between.
This one was on my short list as well. So.
Yeah. I felt like it had to be on my list.
Yes.
Obviously, like we loved their story and I don't know, there was like, I learned a lot about it that I didn't know. But for me personally, like it's really important for my professional career too, because their story really helped lay the groundwork for OSHA. Nerdy, I know. But this is where I go on to say that I don't really like have any updates to add for anyone, but for like anyone who's paying attention to the news, and we've already talked about this a little bit, you know that we are going through it here in the US. And so, yeah, Megan already talked about like science funding and how a lot of that support is being attacked, but those funding cuts also include funding for NIOSH, which funds occupational safety and health research. And additionally, there have been several direct attacks on OSHA. And like, fortunately, those don't really seem to be going anywhere yet. But it just feels like a really good time to remind people why these organizations exist. And that, like, this story in particular is a really great example of what can happen if we don't have agencies like that in place or regulations like that in place. Because then we're just like trusting people who are trying to make money to do the right thing.
Yeah, I keep making the point over and over again, I don't know, to anyone who will listen, but just that all of these different organizations, like regulatory organizations, whatever it is, the FDA, the CDC, OSHA, they're like victims of their own success because they've been so successful that people have forgotten why we need them in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's not going to be any like free market capitalism solution. Like companies are in it to make money. They're not in it to keep their workers safe.
Sure. So. And like there are good companies out there that would do the right thing. But like a lot of us have heard the saying that OSHA standards are written in blood. And it is like very much true.
Yeah.
These things exist because bad things have happened in the past.
Yeah. And to your point, you know, you work in a field that, is very much affected by what's going on right now. And I work, fortunately, at the state level, but in public health. So things like them cutting, you know, the lead poisoning team at the CDC and stuff is just like, just drive a stake through my heart because it's just insane. So Good. Well, we got the sadness out of the way.
Yeah, so like you tried to not go there, but I was like, well, I'm going there anyway.
We're doing it anyway. It's fine. And honestly, like, I think it's important to just say it and make it clear about where we stand on all of this.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I'm going to keep going here is like, it's like a really, we've talked about this, Megan and I have, but I don't think we've like talked about it publicly. That like, it's sort of a bizarre time to be trying to like push a book
Oh, yeah.
for a lot of reasons, but like we're trying to stay really excited and we are very excited for the book, but then there's all this other stuff going on. And
Yeah.
so it's been kind of weird, but it's also, it feels like sort of a great time for us to be releasing this book that, I don't know, like highlights the importance of, you know, science, but also just like critical thinking and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I saw a video the other day where someone was talking about, I think she was talking about like the wellness industry and sort of that whole, you know, grifty supplement BS or whatever. She said like, oh, if you're really involved in that, like that's pipeline behavior. And that is very much how I feel about a lot of paranormal stuff. Because I know we've talked about this before, we talked about it in the book, that you're more open to accepting conspiracy theories or like, you know, making those types of connections. So it's like the pipeline from that to some pretty sketchy political ideologies it's there. So,
Right.
you know, so it might seem like silliness, but it can be important and people like need to sort of stay on their toes that they're not drifting down some path that they don't want to or like aren't aware that they're going down. So anyway,
So bringing it back to the excitement of the 5 years and moving away from that topic, Megan, what was your number 5?
Number
guess?
5. Yeah. No. And again, like it's fine to talk about these things because I feel like that's been a whole purpose of the show the whole time is to get people to think more critically. So, you know, it's fine. Okay. So for number 5, I'm cheating a little bit and I'm putting a tie for 2 things because they're 2 things that have probably freaked me out the most on the show. And so I felt like we had to include them both. And they are both health-related topics that I have not been able to shake since we talked about them in their respective episodes. So the first, and I'm positive that like at least one of these is on your list. So the first is sleeping sickness. Or sleepy sickness, which was from episode 77, which was our part 3 when we talked about Salem and the Salem witch trials. So sleepy sickness, just to recap, is encephalitis lethargica. And that is one of the proposed explanations for the girls who got sick in Salem before and during the witch trials. And long story short, you feel a little off one day, maybe feel a little sick. And then all of a sudden you're overcome with this irresistible need to sleep. And you're basically in a coma-like state. But you can experience very vivid nightmares and hallucinations. And there was an outbreak from 1915 to 1930. And it killed 500,000 people. And they still don't really know what causes it. So you could just sort of get it. And a lot of people die from it. And they don't really know why. And I've spent very few days not thinking, like, am I just going to fall asleep and not wake up at some point?
Right. It's the worst. You ruined my life with that.
It's so bad. So that was the first one. And the second health thing, which I think Paige already knows, it is from episode 86, which was Killer Holidays. And it is about the increased risk of a heart attack if you eat a big meal. This is related to the fact that people are more likely to have cardiac events like heart attacks on Christmas in the US more than any other day of the year, which is like already sort of spooky and weird. But one of the proposed explanations was that it's because people tend to overeat on those days, on holidays like Christmas. And a 2000 study by the American Heart Association found that a single one excessive meal could quadruple your risk of having a heart attack that day. So I live in fear now.
It's the worst. You're right. So actually, neither of these have made it on my list.
Oh, really?
Really? But I don't know. Maybe they should have because I do think about them an unhealthy amount.
Yeah. Well, and I wouldn't say that I like them. Like it's weird to say that it's my favorite, but A, they were both fun to research.
Sure.
B, They have stuck with me. I'm never forgetting these things. And I'm also convinced that I'm like one big meal away from just like, that's it. So it's not great. Okay, so that's my number 5. Paige, what is your number 4?
So I would say that this one's like maybe not one of my favorite topics that we've covered necessarily. Like, it was fun to research. And like, I have one particular story that I covered that I enjoyed, but like, the episode was just so much fun to record that it had to be on here. And that's episode 52, which was Modern Not Folklore with Tyson Kemp. And so like, I did Ted the Caver for that episode, which I'm not going to like spoil it. If you haven't heard the story, you should go listen to the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a lot of fun like researching that and talking about it and everything. But like, that episode was just such a riot. And I think it was like the first time we had done anything with Tyson. We talked about, I think it was like mostly internet urban legends. We talked quite a bit about Appalachia, and it was just like, I don't know. I was like crying multiple times throughout that episode. I was laughing so hard. So I don't know that it was like topic specific, but just like we had so much fun.
Yeah. So I almost put your telling of the Ted the Caver like saga as one of my favorite things. I remember that being so good, and I was like locked into the story that you told about it. So I totally, that was on my short list as well of episodes. But like, because it was so much fun to record, and it was so funny, and I'm positive no other episode is like as giggly as that one. But also because I really loved that Ted the Caver.
It was so fun. I had a lot of fun with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes. So mine is also sort of a whole episode thing, but a couple specific things about the episode. Mine is episode 23, which we did sort of like an interview / casual chat with Matt Baxter and Karen Stolznow. And Karen's been on the show a few times. She is a host on Monster Talk, and she's really awesome. And Matt also is really involved in the paranormal world and whatever. Go listen to the episode, learn more about them. They are the best. There's 2 things about this episode that I really love. We talked a lot about the Stanley Hotel in the episode because they live in Colorado, so they are familiar with it and have been there and done sort of like investigative stuff there. And while we were talking about it, obviously we all agreed that the Stanley's haunting is like mostly a marketing campaign. It's a lot of BS. But Matt told us this really great story about ghost hunting in another Colorado hotel, which is called the Brook Forest Inn, which is located in Evergreen, Colorado. They are both sort of like in the Rocky Mountain National Park area, so I assume they're not super far away. But I could be wrong. They could be several hours away. Anyway, not important. So I have it summarized here, but I feel like I shouldn't spoil the story. Beyond saying that I think it's a very spooky story, I think that it is like super compelling that neither Matt or Karen can really explain what happened to him and the team that he was investigating this hotel with that night. And even with like everything that we know and everything we've researched and written for the book and stuff, it's a weird one. Like, it's such a hard one to even debunk at all, like what happened to them that night. So 100% worth going back to that episode to listen to Matt's story about that. The second thing that I liked about that episode a lot is that I'm pretty sure that it's where our potential beef with Jason Hawes of Ghost Hunters started.
Is it?
Yeah, because in that episode, we were talking about the Stanley, and I brought up the Ghost Hunters episode of them investigating at the Stanley Hotel, and how one of the spookier parts of the episode was that Jason has this water glass that's on his nightstand. Yeah. That like seems like it just like spontaneously breaks, and they make a big deal out of it in the episode. And Karen and Matt had like talked to him about this because they were asking him about things about the episode or whatever. And he like admitted to them that it was a hot glass that had like just come from the dishwasher, and then they poured cold water in it and it broke. And then they like edited it to make it seem like it was this paranormal thing. So then flash forward to, I don't know, some amount of time later, but Jason was on Kenny Biddle's Friday night live show that he does. And I obviously watched that and like was in on the chat and stuff. And I didn't ask about this, but I asked a different question that Kenny passed on to Jason. And then he also brought up the glass incident. And Jason Haas was just sort of like, oh, I don't know. I don't remember anything about that. And I was like, don't you though?
I was going to say, I remember the story, but I didn't remember it coming from Karen and Matt. I couldn't remember what episode that was.
Yeah. So that's that episode and honestly, like I'm talking some shit because that episode of Ghost Hunters is so old at this point and he's filmed so many of them that he could very well just not remember,
Sure.
like, what actually happened. But it was sort of a funny thing that like I got to watch him live, just sort of be like, oh, I don't know anything about that. I don't know what happened. And I was like, all right, man, come on to you. So anyway. Okay, so Paige, what is your number 3?
Okay, so this is one that I don't know. So episode 66, The End of the World, is one that like
we had the same short list at least. I know that much.
Yeah. So this one is like on mine specifically because I loved learning about the Dust Bowl so much.
Oh, yes. Honestly, I should have put this on my list because I sort of blanked on that.
It's like one of those things where I think we all, we'd all heard of it and probably talked about it a little bit in school or something at some point, but I did not really understand how terrifying it was.
Oh, yeah.
Until we did this episode. And I sort of got obsessed with it for a little bit. So I honestly can't, I don't know that like the episode itself was like my favorite, but I loved just like reading about the Dust Bowl so much.
Yeah, I think that straight up was one of my favorite episodes in like a existential dread sort of way. But yeah,
sure.
I do. Yeah, also the Dust Bowl thing was just crazy. And like, yeah, we all read The Grapes of Wrath in high school. And I read some other, Dust Bowl book that I can't remember the name of right now. And I just remember listening to you talk about all this and just how horrifying and terrifying it was for people. And I just don't think that I had ever, I don't know, I just hadn't quite ever thought about how awful it really was. And then it's also especially awful. So I actually made a TikTok video about it because I was like, this is crazy. Like everyone should be like screaming from the rooftops about this. Like we shouldn't just be talking about it with high schoolers who are like reading books that they don't want to read.
Right.
Like, we should all be talking about it all the time. So I made this TikTok video about it. And even just like in the last few weeks, like it's gotten like tens of thousands of additional views since I originally made it. And we had sort of warned about this in the episode that like there's a lot about what's going on with like farming practices and climate issues right now that are sort of potentially pushing us towards another dust bowl.
Yes.
And there's been these huge like dust storms and like crazy wind and stuff across the plains. So it's like people are tuned into it right now.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I wrote. So like part of the reason that I thought this was a good one is because I think it's like pretty relevant right now.
Yeah.
And I think you had just sent me an article about it like last week or something or maybe it was a couple weeks ago about all the dust storms and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like terrifying. These are the things that scare me.
Yeah. So that was a good episode and that was a crazy story. And honestly, yeah, good to recommend it just because like everyone should be thinking about the Dust Bowl way more than they do.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your next one?
My number 3 is from episode 44, which was Short and Spooky Tokyo Drift. Which means that it was our third Short and Spooky episode. So this was about the Angel's Glow phenomena. Yeah. So brief recap. It's 1862. It's the Battle of Shiloh during the Civil War. And you had soldiers that got injured during the battle who realized that their wounds glowed at night. And the ones that had glowing wounds had better survival rates. And that glow, they called it Angel's Glow because it seemed like it was some sort of divine intervention. Yeah, but turns out it was not related to angels, but was thanks to a bioluminescent bacterium that is commonly found in soil and then got into the wounds on this muddy battlefield. And because that bacteria is like a really fierce competitor with other bacteria, it has an antibiotic effect. So probably these soldiers got it in there and like inadvertently got a little like antibiotic dose in their wound, and it allowed them to recover better. And I just think that is like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, I remember you telling or talking about this and me just like, I don't know, loving it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a real life thing. Like,
No.
it's just crazy. Okay, this is the one I have an extra fun fact for. But like, spoiler, it is not a fun fact at all. So I'm really sorry, you guys. My fun fact is because Steven and I just watched a documentary called The Twister on Netflix, which was about the Joplin tornado in 2011, which was this massive tornado that destroyed the town of Joplin, Missouri. It holds the record for, one of the most expensive in terms of damage. And I think it killed like over 150 people. Like, it was crazy. And there's a lot of like spooky things about that we could talk about in a different episode. But anyway, so here's the thing about the tornado, though. So the tornado itself, very dangerous, very scary. But some of the survivors of the tornado ended up getting infected by a flesh-eating fungus called Apophis. I think that's right. Apophysamyces. I think that's right. I had to write it out. Apophysamyces. It's a hard one, man. Anyway, flesh-eating fungus. And it is a fungus that's typically found in soil or decaying vegetation. But because everything got so torn up by the tornado, got airborne and got into people's wounds, like, people died. Like, they survived the tornado and then died later because they got infected because of this flesh-eating fungus that came from the soil. And it is just so creepy. Like, there was a guy in the documentary who, like, they had to cut away huge portions of his chest, and he's just got these crazy scars now, and just like it's all caved in because they had to cut away so much of it because he, got really injured and then got this fungus in there. So yeah, I guess like microbes giveth and microbes taketh away sometimes is the moral of that story. I know, I shouldn't.
I will be honest, I had no idea where you were going with this fun fact.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was expecting.
I just think that's crazy. You can get a bacteria that might help you heal better.
Yeah.
Or you might get this fungus.
You might get this fungus.
Eats away your body, and that is crazy. Anyway, nature is scary. I told you it was not a fun fact. It was just a fact that I felt was relevant.
Fair enough.
To wounds getting dirt in them. Okay. Anyway, we're thankful for modern medicine in either case.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2. What's your number 2?
Okay. I will be really shocked if this is not on both of our lists. This is the one that I was like pretty darn confident would show up for both of us.
Okay.
And that is episode 35, Too Short, Too Spooky. Is it on yours?
It's not.
So specifically, this is I'm just shocked that we don't have anything. We don't have anything in common yet.
Everything that you've talked about, though, has been on my short list. So
yeah, pretty much same here. So so specifically, this one is on my list because this is the episode where you talked about Bloody Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like, for me, probably one of the scariest topics we've covered. It like still haunts me.
This was on my short list. I talk about how this affected me so much in the book. Like, oh man, it's something.
It is something. And it's funny because I also had 2 things that I covered in that episode. Mm-hmm. But when I was writing this down as a favorite, I was like, I literally don't even remember what I talked about because all I remember about that episode was fucking Bloody Mary.
Yeah, to be fair, I also don't remember what you talked about.
Yeah, it's because this is like, this topic was like everything to us.
Yeah.
So for those who haven't heard it, this is like the Bloody Mary game that most of us played when we were kids, where you would go in a dark room and say her name some amount of times. And it was while you're staring in the mirror, and eventually Bloody Mary's spirit will appear. And it's like everybody played this at like a sleepover or something at some point in their life. So Megan talks about it. I will leave it there. If you have not heard this episode, like I said, 35, you should go back because like, I don't know. This literally, we recorded this, 3 years ago now? And I still think about it all the time.
Oh, yeah. You could read about it in the book too. And I think the way I put it in there was like, now you're going to learn about why I'm still afraid to look in the mirror when I go pee in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Because I still, for real though, like I still think about it. If I have to get up and go pee and I like manage to like glance up at my face in the mirror and I'm like, nope, I'm not interested in that. Like, I'm just going to wash my hands. I'm going to keep my head down. I'm going to go back to sleep. Every time. Yeah, that's a good one. That was on my short list, 100%.
All right, well then what's your number 2?
My number 2 is, again, sort of a broader one. This was episode 32, which was about crop circles. And specifically, it was just because I love the story of Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley so much.
This was also on my list, or not my short list as well.
Yeah. Yeah, you can go listen to the episode to hear the whole saga, but Doug Bauer and Dave Chorley are essentially the ones that started the entire crop circle phenomena as we know it. They were at a bar one night in 1976 and thought like this would be hilarious to try and make one of these like flying saucer nests that they'd heard about in Australia. And yeah, they kept the joke up for like over a decade and then eventually felt guilty enough about keeping the joke up because there was starting to be like research funding going towards crop circles. They're like, we got to admit what we've done here. But like they fooled everybody. They did demonstrations for the press and then like brought in crop circle experts.
They're like the ultimate pranksters.
Yeah, who like didn't realize that it was real, or like the crop circle experts were like, no, this could not be made by human hands. And then like the reporter literally brings in Dave and Doug and they're like, surprise, bitch, it was us. Which I think is legendary, but also sort of mean to the person who was the expert. But anyway, so it's one of my favorites because like I knew going into the episode that crop circles were a hoax and had become sort of more of an art form that people do, but had no idea that there was this like wholesome best friends forever story behind them. And yeah. And also I think like I had to bring it up because crop circles, people are weird about them in the same way that like less so than UFOs, but like people are a little weird about them. Like some people are so insistent that crop circles are something like paranormal or related to aliens. And it's like, really, you guys? Like, this is the hill you want to die on.
This is the thing that you think the aliens are coming here to do.
Yeah. And also the thing that you're like, humans can't do this. And it's like, okay, but humans literally can do this. Like, you can hire people to make you crop circles.
You literally do corn mazes every year. What do you mean people can't do this?
Yeah, and we have super elaborate ones,
right?
You know, in the area around where we live. So yeah, like people can do this. It is definitely people. And we brought it up in that episode, but I stand by my desire to crowdfund enough money to hire people to make us a crop circle. 5 years into this podcast and a book deal, and like I'm not any closer financially to like making this happen just with our own money. So we either need to get a lot more famous or something else needs to happen for us to get a crop circle.
Yeah, by year 10, we've either got to have a crop circle or we got to be doing ghost hunts.
Yeah. Honestly, we should just like make that a goal. Ghost hunt, we should make a goal for like the next year, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Done.
You heard it here. We're going on a ghost
We're
hunt.
going ghost hunting.
Between now and April 19th of 2026, we'll have gone. Okay, so that's my number 2. Paige, what is your number 1 favorite / whatever, however else you feel about?
Do you have like a guess?
Okay. So I have 3 that were on my short list that I did not choose, which might surprise you. I think the Freddy Krueger sons thing could be it. I think Mrs. H and like the carbon monoxide ghost could be it. Or I think Elva or Zona Heaster and like the ghost testimony in the murder case could be it.
Okay, so you were right the first time. But like I would say episode 8, which yes, this is like probably, it was only one of our first couple of episodes and it's still today one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And in part, it's because this is the episode where we talk about SUNS, which is sudden nocturnal death syndrome, which is like another one of these like really terrifying stories that have really stuck with me. It's like literally there's not really a diagnosis. It's just like it's like you just die in your sleep.
Yeah. So long story short, it's one of the inspirations for Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Because people essentially died because they were so scared of nightmares that they were having. And that was the first like scary episode that we did.
It was.
Like I remember feeling unsettled talking about that. And yeah, it's definitely stuck with me as well.
So I was going to say, yeah, like, so that story really stuck with me. But the reason that I would say this is like probably my number 1 is because I really just loved this episode as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is like really the first episode, like you said, that was kind of scary. It's also one of the first ones where it got like pretty dark and sad. But I would say that like in this episode is one of the first times where we discuss the significance of believing in some of these topics that we cover and the important role that they play in our lives. And it wasn't just like about debunking. It was like why these are important, even if we believe they aren't true.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you'd agree, but like I just sort of feel like this episode really helped shape the show and now the book into what it is today. So this one has like a place in my heart.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. That yeah, it was an important episode that we did. And yeah, it was a long time ago. It was 5 years ago now. And I think you're right. Yeah. I said something earlier where I said like, oh, sort of like paranormal beliefs and stuff or pipeline behavior, whatever. But the same side of that coin is like they're also very human. Like we've been telling these stories for like since humans were humans. We've been telling ghost stories and monster stories, and they're our way to like deal with things that we're afraid of and things that we don't understand. So as much as I think they can be, I don't know, dangerous in a way, basically, they're also really important just to like humans in general. So it's a good one. That was on my short list. I was like trying to think, what was Paige choose? And then I was like, I'm going to choose something different.
It's funny though, because I got done with mine and I was like a little disappointed in myself that there weren't any like ghosty ones. Like I had on my short list, like the debunking hauntings episode with Kenny, because that was great. I don't know. I didn't have any ghosty ones. So I'm hoping that you do.
Well, get excited because my number 1 is a ghost one.
Yay!
So my number 1 is episode 42, which is another one featuring Karen. And it was the episode that we did about the Winchester Mansion.
Yeah, that one was on my list too. I love that episode so much.
Yeah, so I really love that episode. And really, I love all the episodes that Karen was on because she is just so great. Yeah. And obviously, she's like, has a ton of experience. And I think Monster Talk's been on for at least a decade. So she's got time on us. But anyway, long story short, the whole gist of this episode was like everything you think you know about Sarah Winchester and her like fear of ghosts and her haunted mansion is all just like a load of baloney. So you chose yours as like, this was a, profound episode that, shaped the show and like really sticks with us all this time later and was like the first scary episode we did. My choice is like, I'm just very spiteful because I feel like whether they know it or not, like I have beef with the Winchester Mystery House.
Oh, me too. That episode was also very much on my list.
Yeah. It's just so crazy. And I think it was one where I didn't really know going in. Like, I didn't think it was haunted when I was going in, but like, I just didn't realize how much of a grift the whole operation is.
Yeah.
Like, it was after her death that this like failed theme park operator basically purchases the house, and all of the weird stuff about it, like stairs and doors to nowhere, like weren't like she wasn't creating some ghost maze. It was the house got damaged when she was elderly during the San Francisco earthquake and they didn't repair it. They just closed off certain sections of it. And then they turned around and like just added all this bullshit to it and made it seem like it's this haunted house and she was crazy and like she believed ghosts were trying to get her and like it's just insane. And I feel so bad for her.
People love crazy women stories.
Exactly. Yeah, I had like a lot of righteous indignation learning about her. And like, I still feel just so sad for her because by all accounts, she was like very smart and she built this huge house because she loved architecture and it was something that she shared with her husband who had passed away. So like, she's trying to stay close to him. And potentially it's also like a philanthropic thing that she keeps adding on to it because she's trying to provide work for people during like hard economic times. Like, she's this great person. Like, she is reclusive, yes, because I think she had some health issues, but also like her husband and her child had passed away.
People are allowed to be.
Yeah, like leave me the fuck alone. Like, just let me take my fortune and like build my giant house that I love and just live my life the way I want to live it. But like, I think because she's like the single woman and she's a widow and, she did have a lot of money for the time, but she did a lot of good things with it, like philanthropic things with it. And people just made her out to be like crazy. And that is so shitty. So yeah, that stuck with me because like, that is just a thing that I will continue to push about in the paranormal community until people like knock it off about the house.
Yeah. Super fair. Yeah, I definitely remember us getting pretty worked up about that episode.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Good choice. Yeah. I think these were all good choices. And it was fun to scroll through and look back at all the things that we've talked about for the last 5 years. And now this is episode 90. Yeah. So it's taken us a long time to get to episode 90 because we don't put out as many episodes as some shows. But hey, we're out here. We're doing the work.
We're doing it. Hey, some shows that put an episode out every week or, even every 2 weeks don't last 5 years. So
that's right.
We've taken the time when we've needed it and we're still here.
Yeah.
Also, you know what I really kind of wanted to talk about, but like I didn't know that it felt like it fit in my top 5. The spooky chemistry episode and the water cremation.
Oh. Why did that not feel appropriate?
Oh, like not that it didn't feel appropriate. It was just like there were too many other things to talk about that I was like, no,
okay.
I feel like this doesn't fit.
Okay.
But I think about that a lot too.
I think about water cremation a lot. To be fair, I follow like a whole bunch of sort of mortician accounts that do like educational things on TikTok or social media and talk about like, all the natural or sort of whatever burial options. It's all very interesting.
It is.
I do still think that like we should do a whole future episode on sort of like modern burial practices and like,
right.
Yeah, we should find a mortician who wants to be on the show.
I love that.
So anyway, it's been good and we're going to keep going. And
we did it.
We did it. It's weird that it's been 5 years. I told Steven, he was like, what's the topic tonight? And I was like, well, we're sort of doing like a top 5 things because it's our 5-year anniversary. And he's like, it's been 5 years.
Yeah,
I
here's
know.
what looking back at these episodes reminded me is that I have like literally no concept of time or when things occurred, because some of these episodes, it was like, oh, we recorded these a couple months ago. And it was like, no, this was like 4 years ago. Or I was thinking like, oh, this is one of our first couple episodes. No, Paige, this was episode 66. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah. That's the other thing, though, that I like about our top 5 list is that, like, we really spanned. Like, you started at, like, episode 5, and then my most recent one was episode 86. So, like, we've had favorites from across the whole range of stuff. So
We still like it.
we're still awesome. And really, like, it's not to plug the book again, but I'm going to plug the book again because there's a lot of stuff in the book that includes topics that we talked about in this episode. But, like, yeah, there's a lot of favorite topics that show up in the book as well. So,
yeah, I guess just if this is one of your first episodes, hopefully this will guide you to some of our favorite episodes.
yeah, if you've only recently started listening to the show and you're thinking like, how far back should I go on the catalog? Like, this is a good little sampling of ones that we think people should listen to.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right.
That's it. Happy anniversary.
Yay. All right. Well, we hope you guys had fun. We did. We had fun, right, Megan?
You sounded so unsure. We did.
We did.
No, I had a great time. It was fun to look back and it's fun to talk about it. And it feels like such serendipitous timing that it's like our 5-year anniversary and with the book coming out in a couple months and it's all coming together.
And we're getting close to episode 100.
Yeah, it's coming later this year.
All right. Well, thanks for the last 5 years, I guess.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. This wraps up our 5-year anniversary episode. If you liked this episode, hit subscribe and share with a friend. Check the show notes for links to all of our social media accounts, our Discord server, and Patreon. If you have any questions about previous topics or ideas for future episodes, email us at our new email address, thesisters@spookysciencesisters.com. As always, thank you for listening and stay spooky. Spooky Science Sisters is a proud member of the Evergreen Podcasts Network. For more information or to check out other shows, please visit evergreenpodcasts.com.